Radio Voces Latinos, 1610 AM. A drink of water with Joyce Aldrich. Refresh your mind.
Welcome to this edition of A Drink of Water. It is 7 degrees and 8:02. As we know, there was the Pittsburgh massacre on Shabbat on Saturday, and at 8:30 I'm going to be joined by Rabbi Tzvi Sytner, who's the rabbi at the Village Shul here in Toronto. And, you know, Jews are in diaspora. Jews come from all over the world, and just because someone's in Toronto doesn't mean they're from Toronto. One of the victims was from Toronto originally, and she was living in Pittsburgh. And, of course, Rabbi Sytner grew up in Los Angeles. He learned a BA in liberal studies from Thomas Edison State College, a master's in education from the University of Bridgeport. And we have him here in Toronto, and he's going to be joining us at 8:30. But first, this is his tribute to the massacre.
Of the Pittsburgh Synagogue Massacre. Murdered simply because they were Jewish. Joyce Feinberg, 75. Richard Gottfried, age 65. Rose Mallinger, 97. Jerry Rabinowitz, 66. Cecil Rosenthal, age 59. His brother David Rosenthal, age 54. Bernice Simon, 84. Her husband, Sylvan Simon, 86. Daniel Stein, age 71. Melvin Wax, 88. And Irving Younger, age 69. The world is in pain. Mourning, crying, vigils around the globe. Flowers, candles. But it pains me to think that the flowers will wither and the candles will burn out, and the conversation will fade. Yet the pain of these 11 families will remain. Their lives will be changed forever. But these 11 families are our brothers and sisters. And if their lives are going to change forever, then our lives need to change forever. This anti-Semite murderer wanted to bring hatred into the world. Let's unite. Let's bring more love into the world. He wanted to destroy our Jewish identities. Let us strengthen our Jewish identities more than ever before. He wanted to make walking into a synagogue something that we are all petrified to do. Let's fill every single synagogue around the world. He wanted to break the Jewish people apart. Let's unite stronger than ever before. In memory of these 11 innocent, pure souls, let's all dig so deep within ourselves to change ourselves and to change the world. And in their memory, let us all make the world a more loving, unified place. Let's strengthen our Jewish identities, and may their memories be a blessing, and may their families find comfort.
Burn. skies. The yellow stars that filled your father's eyes. You can only see what you were taught to see. Who can compete with both our histories? So many times we have to die. We tell the truth, you say we lie. You look at us and can't disguise the yellow stars that filled your eyes. Oh, Israel has a story to tell, one of love and lament. We chose our fate to teach love and not hate, to build a better world to come. Not just for us, but for everyone. Not just for us, but for everyone. Our God's the same, Gentile and Jew. We both began in that famed garden too. Although our paths took us down separate ways, we're sure to meet again at the end of days. We'll look each other in the eye, lion, lamb, both side by side. Our God's the same, Gentile and Jew. We both began in the garden too. Oh, Israel has a story to tell, one of love and lament. We chose our fate to teach love and not hate, to build a better world to come. Not just for us, but for everyone. Not just for us, but for
And of course, you heard the memorial by Rabbi Tzvi Sytner for the 11 people who were murdered in the Pittsburgh massacre. It was a massacre, absolutely a massacre of innocents. And after that, of course, Chris Burkett singing "Don't Number Us." And, you know, when you're remembering these 11 victims, I'm sure you've heard a lot about them on the news, and certainly it's not much more I can add to it except that these were people who were going to pray. And not in any synagogue in any part of the world will you ever hear a call for murder or genocide or hatred. It just doesn't happen. Just doesn't happen. We have, you know, Joyce Feinberg, who attended Holy Blossom, and that's right here at Toronto and Bathurst and Eglinton area, and they called her a magnificent, generous, caring, and profoundly thoughtful human being. And of course, you had Richard Gottfried. He was 65. He was a local dentist, and you know, he used to volunteer at a free dental clinic in his spare time with his wife, and provided dental care for free for people in the community who couldn't afford treatment. You know, this is the kind of thing they were doing. People who did what we call mitzvahs, good deeds, but not for the sake of doing good deeds, but for the sake of being decent people. And of course, Rose Maliger, 97 years old. Now, I understand she was not a Holocaust survivor. It doesn't matter. A great-grandmother, grandmother, devoted to her 2 children and 3 grandchildren. And she was always there at Shabbat services, there to add her wisdom and her beauty. And Jerry Rabinowitz was 66, and you know, always he was a personal physician and someone again who helped a lot of people with HIV. One of the early pioneers there in Pittsburgh, helping them. And people would say he was like a member of the family. And when he held someone's hand who had HIV, he didn't use rubber gloves. He held them with his own hand, and he always had a big smile on his face for people. And then there was Cecil Rosenthal, 59, and his dear brother David Rosenthal, 54. Now, what you may not know about this lovely duo, they were a dynamic duo. They were gregarious, loved people, social, and they also had developmental disabilities. And they were the first ones to be murdered by this, I won't even say his name, it's not worth it. But they were out there handing out prayer books to people as they came in the door. And two lovely brothers who are now gone. People won't be graced by their joy and their beauty and being part of the community. And of course, Bernice Simon, 84, who used to make her delicious cranberry orange breads for her neighbors and was always, there for people. She got married at the Tree of Life Synagogue, 62 years before, to her dear husband, Sylvan Simon, who also died at the age of 86. Very loving couple, and they did everything together. They would say anything that they could do, they did as a team, and sadly they died together. And of course, Daniel Stein, 71 years of age. He would attend services every day, and he was formerly the congregation's president, and his wife would have been there with him that day, but she didn't go that day, and she lost her husband. And Melvin Wax, 88. Oh my gosh, Melvin Wax. They say he was usually the first one to be there and the last one to leave, and when someone wasn't there to run a service, he would step in. He knew how to do everything in the synagogue. A very learned man, and at the time of the massacre, Melvin was leading that Shabbat morning service. And Irving Younger, 69, charismatic man, they called him, and he was always there to volunteer and greeting new members, helping visitors find a seat, finding a prayer book for someone. So you see, the general personality trait of these people were kindness, goodness, and what we call chesed, which is kindness. And so, but this is not something new. Anti-Semitism is not something new. We're going to come back after break. It's 8:15. And as I said, we're going to be joined by Rabbi Tzvi Sytner of the Village Shul at 8:30. But when we come back, I'm going to play a little bit of music and talk a little bit about anti-Semitism in the 21st century. We'll be back right after this.
In your car, at home, at work, or wherever you tune in from, CHHA 1610 AM, Radio Voces Latinas. Radio Voces Latinas.
You are listening to Radio Voces Latinas, 1610 AM. A drink of water.
Do 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 as I lie awake, thinking of my day. Did I hurt someone with the things I say? I feel so uneasy, feel so insecure, spending all of my time trying to be pure. Streets and stones would break your bones with words that do you no harm. 'Cause
Chris Burkett with Sticks and Stones, and certainly sticks and stones can break your bones, and so can words. Words can hurt you a lot, especially when it says all Jews must die. And, you know, anti-Semitism is not something new. It's been around for over 5,700 years, more than that. And it's it's been on the rise for many, many years, before Trump. So, you know, it's not a time to politicize this very non-political, anti-Semitic massacre of Jews who died because they are Jews, you know? We can't diminish anti-Semitism by blaming the Pittsburgh massacre on Trump. That is actually not a good thing to do. The rise in anti-Semitism in the 21st century started really basically with the BDS movement, which was is the boycott, divest, and sanction Israel. And a lot of people are wising up to that, saying, are you kidding me? This is not something we can do, and it's not a wise thing to do. It's not good for countries, it's not good for trade, it's not good for anything, except it's really active in our universities. That's where it's really percolating the most, and this is baseless hatred of Israel, really and truly, and it's rampant, it's unfounded, and so the root of anti-Semitism really started way back in Egypt. And remember the story of Moses? Go check that out in Exodus and read that very, very carefully, and you'll see where anti-Semitism and the genocide of Jews started. It was back then, not with Trump. Not with Trump, way before that. Certainly there are a lot of things leaders can say and do, but this did not. This is something that's been percolating for a while, and we need to stop it. Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, like was mentioned a couple of weeks ago on this program, said the reason anti-Semitism still exists is because nobody stopped it. It's time to stop it. Anyway, here's a song by Hanan Ben and me called Chain Reaction, and maybe this is a good way to start. Everything we do has a chain reaction.
On the physical ground, shaping worlds above and the worlds below with the things I say and the things I do. Cause when you choose wrong or right, well, there's a chain reaction. Chain reaction. Chain reaction. Chain reaction. When you choose wrong or right, yeah, well, there's a chain reaction. Chain reaction. Please don't let me walk through this world full of blind ambition and nothing else. I've got a world to change and a mind to do it. Distinctions all that you do and I'm on the move. And when you choose wrong or right, well, there's a chain reaction. Chain reaction. Chain reaction. Chain reaction. Chain reaction. Break it down, y'all. the chase. I got $1 million ticket, can't let it waste. If this world is a reflection of our inner zone, I'm afraid we're gonna blow this place to kingdom come. Cause when you choose wrong or right, well, there's a chain reaction. Chain reaction. When you choose wrong or right, yeah, well, there's a chain reaction. Chain reaction. Break it down again. Don't take lightly wasting time or the power of our minds to create a space that's beautiful. You got to smile. You know you got the strength to change. To make a chain reaction. Chain reaction. When you choose chain reaction.
And that's Kanan Ben-Ami, and it's 8:28, and we'll be back at 8:30 with Tzvi Sytner right after this break.
You are listening to CHHA 1610 AM Radio Voces Latinas. Located at 22 Wenderley Drive, Toronto, Ontario, M6B 2 and 9. Contact 416-785-0680. Website www.sanlorenzo.ca.
You are listening to Radio Voces Latinas, 1610 AM. A drink of water.
Well, if you're just tuning in to A Drink of Water, my name is Joyce Aldrich, and my guest who's on the line right now is Rabbi Tzvi Sytner, and we've been talking about the Pittsburgh massacre and the rise of anti-Semitism in the 21st century, and how, you know, we can't point the finger at Trump. We've got to actually point the finger at ourselves and take a look at what we can do about this. Right, Rabbi?
That's absolutely right, Joyce. You know what? I honestly couldn't agree more. I think that one of the things that has happened, in light of this tragedy, is a lot of finger pointing, and I think that what we're finding is people are really looking everywhere but themselves for all the wrong reasons, and I get it. I understand where it's coming from. I mean, I know that times like this, we're confused, we're angry, we're upset, we're sad. I get it. And so sometimes sitting with that pain and sitting with those feelings can just hurt so much. So we look for things to distract ourselves. We look for things to, keep us busy, and excuses to blame things on, because if we have to sit with it, it just hurts.
And take a popular point of view. People talk about the populace, but there's also the popular point of view, jumping on that bandwagon, saying, well, this is comfortable, everybody's there, everybody's saying it, so it must be true, But it's not. It's not. So what are you, we played your wonderful memorial from the CHHA.com site at the beginning of the program. Wonderful, but sad.
Thank you.
I mean, the two brothers, they were developmentally challenged, disabled, and all the wonderful people. And the big word that comes out is kindness. They were nice, kind, beautiful people. So why kill these people? Why was this the way to make his statement? I won't even mention the murderer's name. I don't even want to do it. I don't want to give him any press.
Yeah, I mean, look, historically, the Jewish people, this isn't new for us. This isn't new for us. And going back to your point, by the way, just before about the blaming, I was talking to a friend of mine this morning, and he said to me, in the States right now, it's just so popular. Everyone's just blaming Trump. And I said to him, so, the Spanish Inquisition, Nazi Germany, the Romans, the Greeks, Babylonians, so on and so forth. I said, was it Trump also there? Is that why? Was it gun control? Is that why people were attacking? And is that why there was anti-Semitism? Was it Trump's fault there too?
Yep.
And I said, and what about in Jerusalem? Jerusalem where you had a synagogue, and then people are there just praying one morning, and nothing to do with gun control. I mean, in fact, in Jerusalem, you have one of the greatest cities in terms of gun control because they have such tight laws, right? And someone walks in not with any kind of gun, but with a knife, and takes the lives of, I believe it was four innocent people.
That's right. It was horrible. It was a machete. It was an awful thing.
Yeah, exactly. And so to blame is just ridiculous. But I think it ties into this point that you're making now also. Why do people do it? And you know what? It's a whole discussion. It is a discussion.
It's huge. It's big.
There's a great class out there called Why the Jews. I don't know if have you ever heard of that class before?
No.
Fantastic presentation. You could probably find it on h.com.
Why?
Or, somewhere else. Just, Google it.
Yeah.
It's called Why the Jews. And phenomenal presentation about sort of going through the various myths that are given as to why there is anti-Semitism. And then, in the end of the day, it sort of comes down to the real answer, which really was something that Hitler was open about. Hitler said that the Jews inflicted 2 wounds, upon mankind. One was circumcision on the body, and the other was conscience to the soul.
Morality.
What's that?
Morality.
Morality, yeah, that's right. Morality, exactly. So, really, what are we talking about? And, historically, from a spiritual perspective, we really attribute to the fact that, what the Jews sort of stand for is, historically, what we stood for is, you can't just do what you want, when you want, to who you want. But I don't even want to go down this route. I'm going to tell you that, I feel
Which way would you like to go?
It feeds into the whole Trump thing. It's all about, let's find the reasons why, and at the end of the day, what I like to say is, what can we take out of it? Let's not look out, let's look in.
Which is what I'm thinking, look at ourselves. Why is this happening? Well, take a look inside. Exactly. And you just simply look at what this guy wanted to do. What did he want? And this is what I mentioned in that memorial dedication. He wanted to instill fear. He wanted to put an end to the Jews. He wanted to make walking into synagogues something that we won't do anymore. That's what he wanted. He wanted to bring hatred into the world. He wanted to tear apart the Jewish people. And obviously he didn't do his research. But no, that doesn't work.
Exactly.
No,
historically,
wrong,
I'll tell you something.
tactic.
You know what? We're the smallest of people. Been around for over 3,000 years, and you know what? We're not going anywhere. We're not. And every time you stab us, every time you shoot us, every time you break us apart, it's sad that people's lives are lost. But anti-Semitism isn't new to us. So what do? We come back stronger.
Yeah, regroup.
That's right.
Yeah, time to and move on. I mean, you hear all the stories out of the most recent of the big massacres, which was the Shoah, the Holocaust, and you hear these incredible stories. People lost their entire families. Men and women came out of there and started new families and businesses, and went to countries and made so much and gave to the countries who didn't even say you can come in. I mean, we have a lot of Canadians right here, Canadian Jews who were not allowed in here, but have come here and have made lives and businesses and are thriving, and despite being turned away.
That's right.
That's right. That happened in many countries.
Yeah.
So it doesn't stop us. It doesn't stop.
No, it doesn't stop us. And you know what? The other point here is that there, in terms of looking inside of us and sort of what can we take out of it. I talked about the fact that he wanted it to instill fear. He wanted to bring hatred into the world. Okay, great. So let's respond with love. He wanted to break us apart. Let's respond with unity. He wanted to destroy the Jewish people. Well, guess what? It's time for us, each of us individually, to become stronger in our Jewish identity. If we can do that, then we continue to fight him. I was standing just 1 week ago.
Yeah.
1 week ago. 1 week ago tomorrow, I was standing at Yad Vashem, the Holocaust Memorial Museum, in Jerusalem.
Wow.
And we had just finished a 3-hour tour, and we were standing outside in their gardens overlooking Jerusalem.
Mm-hmm.
And all of our guys kind of sitting in a circle. We had a whole group of guys from Canada and other countries. And I said to the guys, Hitler's focus was on Eastern European Jews.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason his focus was on Eastern European Jews, and this is written by one of Hitler's SS men,
Mm-hmm.
is because he said Eastern European Jews are so strong in their Jewish identity. And if we let one of them go, like a seed, they will plant themselves somewhere else, and they will regroup, and they will regrow, and they'll start over again. So we've got to wipe them all out.
He knew.
But Western Jews, this was his theory, right? They asked him, what about the Jews in the West?
Oh, okay.
You know, Hitler wasn't concerned,
Mm-mm.
because he said they're going to assimilate on their own. And so I said to these guys standing there at Yad Vashem, I said, if we strengthen our Jewish identities, the stronger we become, the more lively the Jewish people are today, the more we continue to fight Hitler. And the more we succumb, the more we side with him, so to speak, and we say, you know what, he wanted to wipe out the Jews. He thought that Western Jewry is going to wipe itself out. Well, guess what? You know what? He's right. I'm going to be part of that. You know, and then unfortunately, it's sad to say, but you know, we're really, you know, I don't want to say joining him in his mission, because we're not. You know, he was a
there's the invisible Holocaust, they call it. You know,
exactly. Right. This is a
the
silent
assimilation.
Holocaust,
The
right?
silent.
The concept of getting rid of the Jewish people.
Mm-hmm,
exactly.
mm-hmm.
You know, and that's what it is. That's what it is that he wanted to do, and you know, we don't want that. We want to fight. We want the opposite. So I say the same thing here.
Yeah.
I say the same thing here. Strengthen our Jewish identities. We're fighting what this terrorist, murderer, anti-Semite wanted.
Exactly. And at Mel Lastman Square last night, over 5,000 people congregated. Not all Jews. People from all faiths went out to support the Jews as well, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
You know, and there's a lot more people coming on board, you know, whether it's saying their country is going to recognize Jerusalem as the capital, or like, you know, the Palestinians are saying now, we're not going to recognize Israel, but then you've got another Arab country saying, no, we do recognize Israel. You know,
That's
like
right.
you can, you know, and things are starting to shake up a little bit, loosen up. And this was the thing we were talking about with Goldie Steiner a couple of weeks ago, that there are some positives in the world. This horrible massacre is definitely not one of them, but there are some things that are happening that are very good. You know, and that we have to focus on that as well. And how to. So how do we, whether people are Jewish or non-Jewish, how do we make the Jewish people stronger? How do we help?
I think it's a great question, Joyce. I think it's a great question. And, you know, I think in the end of the day, Jewish or not Jewish, when it comes to hatred, when it comes to anti-Semitism, when it comes to all the things that this guy stood for, you know, these are things that we all need to fight. I mean, look, the Jewish people, we know that we have a responsibility, you know, to keep a certain level of laws, but we also know that the world at large, humanity, you know, has a certain level of morality that we all need to abide by, right?
Yeah, the laws of the land.
That's
right.
Know? That's right. Laws
Wherever
of the
we
land.
are, we got to adhere.
Laws, right?
Yeah.
These are things that
That's
you know
right.
everyone has their level of morality and ethics, and just the way we treat each other. We live in a world, and we've talked about this in the past, you know, where our differences, and we have our walls up, and, you know, you're not like me, you're not my type, you don't look like me, you don't think like me, you don't act like me, you don't love like me, you don't, you know, so on and so forth. And so we have all these walls, and it's like, you know, hey, let's break it down.
Well, I've noticed there's a lot of, you know, instead of people, you know, finding what's the same, what unites people, there seems to be a movement towards finding what separates people, what makes me different from you. I'm this color, or I'm this gender, or I'm going to say it. I mean, like, or I'm this from this country, or I'm from there. And I have nothing against nationalism or people who I don't want anyone to be, any prejudice or race things, racism, anything like that. I mean, it's horrible stuff. It's ugly. But at the same time, let's find our common ground rather than saying, well, we're not like you. And we are all children of God. We're all, we all have something in common,
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, you know what? There's a concept out there. Growing up, I remember, not everybody around me was Jewish, but you had people who said, "Hey, I get it. I get what your people are about, and I want to support, I want to help." And you know what? You see it today. Greatest supporters of Israel aren't even Jewish. You have evangelical Christians and other Christian groups, right? That's
Dr. Michael Gauthier, who's a great advocate for Israel, for Jewish rights, Israel land rights, and did his thesis on it,
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Amazing help, and I mean we're tiny. We're like 0.02% of the population of the world, living in wanting to with a little tiny almond sliver of a land, that is the size of, I think, what was said is what's that park in South Africa? I think Rabbi Hawk was talking about that on Monday. It's maybe the size of Algonquin Park even. I was going to look that up, but
Kruger National Park.
Kruger National Park. Yeah. So it's not even big, and to chisel away at that. Anyway, that's another kind of topic. But we have to try and find some commonality, common ground.
Yeah.
So we're going to go to break in about a few seconds, and I'd like you to stay on till 8:57. Are you able to?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's wonderful. So we're here with Rabbi Tzvi Sytner from the Village Shul, and as I was mentioning before, as we are in a diaspora, our Jews come from all over the place, living all over the place, and doing things. And of course, you're from you were from L.A., right?
That's right.
That's right. Yeah. You're from Los Angeles. Anyway, well, that's a great place. My great grandmother lived in Garden Grove, so
Okay, sure.
Yeah. So we're going to go to break now, and we'll be back with Rabbi Tzvi Sytner with more about what we can do, moving forward. What kinds of things can you think about that make a difference in the world?
Radio Voces Latinas. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at CHHA 1610 AM.
You are listening to Radio Voces Latinas, 1610 AM. A drink of water.
It's 8:46 here at CHHA 1610 AM, and it's 7 degrees. Oh, my goodness. We're here with Rabbi Tzvi Sytner from the Village Shul here in Toronto, where we had a vigil on Monday night, and it was packed. That room was packed.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
But I know a lot of people I never seen at the shul before, so that tells you about what happens with the Jewish people.
Yeah, and you know what? We just sent out that email, maybe it was 8 or 12 hours beforehand, and before you know it, 150 people, show up, and the news is there, and it's amazing to see people rally together. At times like this. Unfortunately, it's the sad stuff, right? That we need to happen that gets us together, right? And no one has time for the good stuff, but then there's that funeral, and all of a sudden, everything in your life stops, and we all get together,
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth, because I was thinking that. I thought, when there's, people get together at weddings and funerals, I haven't seen you for a long time, why can't we get together again? So this is a call for people to, come together, get involved with your community, wherever you are, wherever you're at.
Yeah, it's almost like I kind of wonder sometimes, what message are we sending, to the Almighty when we tell Him, listen, we don't have time for each other. I know that all of humanity are all your children, are all brothers and sisters, and I get it. But honestly, God, Father in heaven, I don't have time for any of my brothers and sisters. I really don't. But my only exception is if you make a tragedy, then I'll make time for my brothers and sisters. I know you want me to. I know you want me to spend time and to open my doors and to be kind to everybody and be friendly. I know you want that, but I'm too busy unless you make a tragedy. And that's really like the message that we're sending up there,
Yeah, it's probably the most tragic thing of all. And when something happens like this in Pittsburgh, or you hear, even if it's not even happened to Jews, but we've had so many tragedies here in Toronto, with people being killed mercilessly, and what's that? And all of a sudden, everybody comes together, and like you said, what happens after the flowers dry up and die and the candles go out?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, to me, that's and I said it, and I meant it. That's the biggest tragedy of all, is when someone loses their life and humanity doesn't change and doesn't change the world as a result. And it's nobody ever wants to. We don't ever want to see anybody lose their life. We don't want to see any tragedies, no illness. We don't want to see any of that. Okay, it's harrowing. It's painful. We don't want to see it. But everybody will tell you after the fact that when the world becomes a better place, people will say, Dainu, that person, yes, their life shouldn't have been taken early, but I know that they would have sacrificed had they known, had they seen, what has happened, the change that took place in the world as a result of that, and people will tell you that. And I've had that in my own life experience where, something happens and you say, I can't believe this is going on. But then after you say, you know what, look at that. Most people don't change the world the way this person did, in their life. And that's exactly the same thing here. I mean, what you have is, people who are waking up and saying, you know what, we've got to do something. And some people are, and some people are blaming. And the blamers are missing the boat.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I and like you, I understand where they're coming from on some level. I mean, we could blame our own prime minister for a lot of things, and troubles in our country, and sometimes we do, But at the same time, there's an undercurrent that's always been there.
Yeah,
and it's not going to be changed by a bill or a law, maybe by a bill or a law or whatever, emotion, but really inwardly on that soul level, that's where it's ultimately going to change everything.
That's right.
But, it's awfully hard for some people. Oh my gosh, this is so esoteric, and existentialist. What is this all about? But that's what it's about. What's it all about, Alfie?
Yeah.
Is it just for the moment we live? Maybe, and for that moment to make it the best moment we can. I don't know. It's kind of confusing sometimes. But when you read these names, and did we know about Joyce Feinberg? No. She used to go to the same synagogue my son goes to now, Holy Blossom. And all of a sudden, boom, there's a connection, I didn't know anything about her. And so all these people, their names, when you called out each name, and they're immortalized, and they stand for something now.
That's right.
We can grab onto those names, and it's like climbing a ladder, and each one is a rung, and we can get higher and higher and get stronger as we climb each rung.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Every single one of these people, they are not names on a paper, God forbid.
No.
These are somebody's parents.
Yeah.
These are somebody's siblings. These are somebody's children. You have people in their 50s, and it's, they have spouses. And these are somebody's husbands and wives, and it's like, and these are our brothers and sisters. This is our people.
This is our family. Like I said, we're a diaspora. We're a family.
You know what? It's interesting. My father-in-law lives in New York, and he flew in today to Pittsburgh. He doesn't even know anybody. My brother, my older brother, lives in New Jersey. He flew in today. He flew in yesterday. He's been there for last couple of days, and he doesn't know anyone there either.
But it's like it's family. It's extended family.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And we can reach out beyond the Jewish community and say we, as a human race, are an extended family. We all came from that same garden, Adam and Eve, and then a whole bunch. Everybody came from out of there, not just the Jewish people. Everybody. And so we have a commonality right there. You know, we share so much. We share so much.
We have a commonality, and I think that one thing that's unique about the Jewish people. I've heard a couple of stories already where people were walking down the street, in whatever city they were in, and someone came up to them and said, "Hey, I'm sorry about your friends, or I'm sorry about your people," just because they saw they had a head covering and they were Jewish,
right?
And it's an amazing thing because I don't know, I can't speak for every nationality, culture, religion. No. But, if you had somebody who was, one person who's Christian, who, God forbid, and nothing should happen, everyone should be healthy and safe.
Amen.
But should something happen, would we walk up to every Christian person and say, "Oh, I'm so sorry about your, that person who was Christian," so on and so forth, in other cultures and other religions? I don't know, and maybe it is, and I hope it is.
Yeah.
I hope it is. But one thing that I know that we are unique, one thing that we do have is that we're a family.
Absolutely.
And that's our origin. I talk to people, I say, what does it mean to be Jewish? What are we? And people say, well, we're a religion. And I say, okay, well, are we a religion? Because you have many people who are Jewish who aren't religious. They still say they're Jewish. So that doesn't really work, Okay, well, then, I don't know, maybe we're a nationality. And I say, okay, well, nationality is common language or common land or common history. And frankly, we don't all speak the same language. You've got Jews all over the world speaking different languages. We don't have a common land up until the last 60 years, 70 years. So,
well, it was always ours, but
what's that?
It was always ours, but I know what you mean.
Yeah, well, no, absolutely. It was always ours. But in terms of being able to settle and have a common history in one land, we didn't have it.
Yeah, we're actually gonna have to sign off because we are. It's a family, beyond anything, beyond a language, a land, and anything. I want to thank you, Rabbi Tzvi Sytner, for coming on. I'd like to have you on again. That'd be great.
Okay, sounds good. Well, thank you so much.
Let the conversation continue.
Sounds great. Thank you so much to you, and best of luck. We should only have happy occasions among all people, all nationalities, all religions, all races. We should all just be healthy and safe.
Amen to that, and I'm sure our audience is all saying amen. Thank you very much.
All righty. Take care.
You too.